In the heart of China's most prestigious universities, an unsettling silence now lingers. Once symbols of pride and ambition, these institutions are becoming ghost towns of broken dreams. In 2025, a shocking statistic emerged. 0% of doctoral graduates secured employment. Not 1%, not even a handful, zero. Only 26.98% of master's graduates found job offers. Compared to the previous year's 51.55%, this is a catastrophic collapse. It's not an isolated incident. Across the nation, young graduates, the best and brightest, face a future that simply does not exist. According to estimates, the real youth unemployment rate could be as high as 46.5%. This figure is not from social media rumor. It's buried within government statistics, hidden behind manipulated numbers. In a country once hailed as the factory of the world, the very foundation is cracking, not from external forces, but from within. But that's just the beginning. The breaking point came quietly. No protests, no headlines, just the silent collapse. In May 2025, China's Ministry of Education announced a record. 12.22 million new college graduates were entering a stagnant job market. This wasn't just a number, it was a wave, a flood of young minds with nowhere to go. For years, Beijing's solution to unemployment was simple: expand graduate programs. More degrees, more hope. From 2020 to 2024, the number of graduate students increased by over 20% annually. But the jobs never materialized. China's economy, battered by supply chain relocations and trade wars, couldn't absorb them. Manufacturing, once a reliable employer, is shrinking. Foreign investment is fleeing. In 2024 alone, China's outbound FDI dropped by nearly 13%. Instead of opportunity, graduates face empty promises. Many are left with a single choice: low-paying factory jobs, gig work, or going back to rural hometowns. At the same time, the Chinese government began manipulating employment statistics. Universities were instructed to reach 80% employment rates by June 30, not by creating jobs, but by pressuring students to sign fake employment agreements. A country once boasting about its rising middle class now hides behind numbers no one believes. And for the young, the future is a dead end. The impact ripples beyond campuses. In major cities like Shanghai and Shenzhen, thousands of young graduates now line up for jobs at delivery companies, assembly lines, and security posts. According to official data, the unemployment rate among people aged 16 to 24 is 15.8%. But independent estimates suggest a harsher reality. Real youth unemployment may exceed 46.5%. Even these grim figures are optimistic compared to what's unfolding on the ground. Scenes once unthinkable are now common. Graduate students with master's and even doctoral degrees queuing outside factories offering $500 a month jobs. Young engineers forced into service work. Job offers for 2025 master's graduates average just 1.2 per student, lower than vocational school graduates, who average 1.6 offers. The cruel irony is stark. The more education they have, the harder it is to find work. In the past, a degree was a ladder to the middle class. Today, it's a ticket to nowhere. Meanwhile, foreign companies continue their quiet exodus. Apple, Tesla, and dozens of multinationals are shifting supply chains to Vietnam, India, and Mexico. Factories close, cities once booming are hollowing out. And the Chinese dream? It's turning into a nightmare, silently, irreversibly. But the true cost is personal. For millions of Chinese families, education was supposed to be salvation. Parents spent decades saving for tuition, believing a degree would guarantee a future. Now, their children, even from elite universities, return home jobless. In online forums, desperate voices rise. Graduates confess to working as delivery drivers, factory workers, or returning to rural farms, ashamed, disillusioned. Surveys show nearly 40% of unemployed graduates have given up active job hunting. They are embracing a phenomenon known as lying flat, rejecting the brutal competition of modern Chinese society. For others, it's even worse. Mental health crises are spiking among unemployed youth. Psychological studies report a 30% increase in depression and anxiety rates among Chinese graduates compared to pre-pandemic levels. Meanwhile, the state response is silence and suppression. Social media posts discussing youth unemployment are swiftly censored. Universities continue inflating employment figures, while the government pushes nationalist slogans to mask economic despair. But slogans can't fill empty plates, and no amount of propaganda can create the future these young people were promised. In a country where questioning authority is dangerous, the silence is telling. It's not just about jobs, it's about trust, and the growing realization that the system they believed in has failed them. The collapse is no longer hidden. It's everywhere, visible in the empty job fairs, the shuttered dormitories, the silent protests on encrypted chat groups. A generation raised on the promise of progress now faces a barren reality. In a 2025 survey, 60% of Chinese graduates stated they believe hard work no longer leads to success. The ladder to prosperity has broken. And the so-called Chinese dream? It lies in ruins, abandoned like so many unused diplomas. In factories across Guangdong and Jiangsu, masters and PhD holders work assembly lines, tightening screws for less than $600 a month. In one reported case, only 20 out of 120 graduates in an engineering program secured employment, and most at minimum wage. But even these jobs are vanishing. State-owned enterprises slash hiring. Private companies freeze recruitment. The government's only answer? Silence. No structural reforms, no new industries, no real hope. And in the background, foreign investors accelerate their retreat. Foreign direct investment into China fell by 8% in early 2025, marking the sharpest decline since 2009. China's rise was once inevitable. Now, its fall seems unstoppable. And for its youth, the best and brightest, the future has become a prison without walls. A silent generation, trapped between broken promises and lost dreams.
The roots of this collapse were not accidental. They were engineered, layer by layer, policy by policy. For years, Beijing masked structural weaknesses with surface-level growth. Build more factories, print more diplomas, expand state control. But underneath, the system was rotting. From 2020 to 2024, graduate enrollment expanded by over 60%. A deliberate policy, not to foster innovation, but to delay unemployment. Flood the education system, keep the youth occupied, avoid unrest. But diplomas don't create jobs, and universities don't replace real industries. Meanwhile, China's manufacturing sector shrank by 2.3% in 2024. Tech firms cut back, exports fell. Beijing's response wasn't reform, it was deception. Universities were ordered to fabricate job placement rates. Students were pressured into signing blank employment agreements. The Ministry of Education set an 80% target employment rate for all universities by June 30, 2025, a number that had to be met, regardless of reality. It wasn't about creating opportunities, it was about preserving an illusion of stability. Worse still, censorship tightened. Social media discussions about unemployment were erased within hours. Reporters investigating the crisis were silenced. Even as the crisis deepened, the official narrative remained the same. Victory is near, stability is strong. But behind the slogans, China is replaying the tragic script of Japan's lost decade on a far bigger, far more fragile scale. The dream has collapsed. All that remains is silence and the weight of broken futures. A nation's true collapse rarely begins with explosions. It begins with silence, with the quiet resignation of a generation that no longer believes in tomorrow. China's youth, once called the architects of the future, are now trapped in an endless present. Degrees without jobs, dreams without hope. Not because they failed, but because the system failed them. In 2025, China's economic growth slowed to 5.4%, far below the target set just a year earlier. Yet growth is meaningless when trust has eroded. A society can survive hardship. It cannot survive hopelessness. The lesson is clear. Prosperity built on censorship, manipulation, and control is a house of cards. It does not collapse from outside pressure. It falls from within, when its own people lose faith. And so the question is not whether China will continue to rise. The real question is, what happens to a nation when its best and brightest stop believing?